In our lives, there are pros and cons to doing anything. So what are the pros and cons of moving to Rapid City and South Dakota? Hey everybody, it's Tristan Emond with Mindful Living Realty, a realtor right here in Rapid City, South Dakota, the gateway to the Black Hills. I did a pro and con video about 5 years ago, and it's one of my most watched videos to date. So I decided it was probably time for me to update that. And back then, I didn't have a tool that I have now, and that is Chat GPT. So I asked AI, what are the top 10 pros and the top 10 cons of living in Rapid City? And at the end, I've got a couple of my own additions to add from conversations I've had from people moving to the area for the past 5 years. Con number one, harsh winters. I mean, right? South Dakota's in the north. We have winter. We've got snow. We've got ice. Hey, just last week, it was negative 20 degrees. And today, what we can have later is 60 degrees. If you're moving from, say, Southern California, being in winter is a lot different than you're used to. And it might be a huge consideration for not moving to South Dakota because of that fact. However, I did a recent video about the weather patterns in our state compared to a lot of other ones around, and we're not even in the top 10 snowiest or coldest states of the nation. But if you don't like the sound of snow and below zero temperatures, South Dakota ain't the place for you. Pro number one, affordable cost of living. If you watched last week's video, you know this really depends on where you're coming from. If you're coming from a Midwest state like Missouri or a Southeast state like Alabama, the cost of living in our area is actually more expensive than it is in their area. However, generally, our cost of living is cheaper than the national average and the metropolitan areas a lot of people are moving from. In Rapid City, our average home price in 2024 was $400,000, which, if you're coming from a huge area where $1 million home is kind of normal, not a big deal. However, if you're coming from an area where a similar home is selling for $250,000, it might be a little bit more of a reach to come to our area. Con number two, limited urban amenities. Now, because of our remoteness and not having a really big city around us for 5 hours everywhere, we have a lot of people coming to our area for services. You'll find your normal box stores like Target and Best Buy, but it isn't like downtown Denver. You've got all the shopping and sports and all the things to do down there. I've had a few people that moved here from larger areas to be with family, and they decided, you know what, there's just nothing to do here. And they moved away to a bigger location, be part of more of a vibrant city. Pro number two, no state income tax.
Double the taxes, triple the taxes, squeeze every last drop out of those insolent musical peasants.
This is a huge factor for people moving here, especially when you're in a state that charges 10+% for their income tax. I had one gentleman moving here that wanted to establish residency here before he finished selling his business because the savings on income tax to the state would save him thousands and thousands. It's nice when you're doing your yearly income tax that you don't have to worry about the state of South Dakota on top of your federal IRS taxes. Con number three, a conservative political climate. Now, I know many of you may consider this a pro. A lot of people that have moved into our area have come because of that fact. But there are those that feel that South Dakota can be a little bit too hard-nosed, red conservative, maybe not as modern as they'd like it to be, especially on issues such as abortion, LGBTQ rights, and like marijuana. In fact, that is one of the reasons people are moving out of the state is because they are not happy with how the politics are in the state of South Dakota. Pro number three, abundant sunshine. We have in our area, on average, about 260 days of sun or partial sun during every year. Of course, we've got our rainy days and our cloudy days and our stormy days, but it seems like if that's been going on for more than a week, we're looking at going, where is the sun? Even when it's bitter or cold outside, we'll have the bright sun shining, making you feel a lot cheerier and happier than other places. In fact, a number of years ago, the nickname on the South Dakota state flag was the Sunshine State, before Florida stole it. I know other people living like in Kalispell, Montana, which is kind of in a bowl there with a lot of water around Glacier National Park. And they are mentioning that it's always cloudy during the wintertime. Con number four, construction and potholes. Because of the before mentioned winters, we only have a few months during the year to get road construction done. So it seems like April, May hits, all the cones start going up, and things start getting really tough around town. Now, obviously, there's some great stuff here in the sense of they're always working on I-90. It always seems to be a great road to travel on. And as you travel to different roads in the country, you'll probably notice that we have pretty decent roads as you're traveling through the state of South Dakota. And a lot of the main roads in Rapid City are pretty decent shape. Many of the residential roads, not so much. A lot of potholes or a lot of filled potholes everywhere, making the whole thing really, really bumpy. Plus, it seems like every other year they're working on the railroad crossings and some of the main streets in town, and they're still bad even today. There's a joke going around that the state animal in South Dakota is the construction co. Thing number 4, nature and natural attractions. With the Black Hills being in our backyard, the Badlands being an hour away, Rapid Creek running right through Rapid City, and a couple of biking and hiking hills and trails within the city limits, there are a plethora of nature activities and opportunities around close by. Whether you love to bike or hike or like winter sports like snow skiing or snowmobiling, you're never far away from those kind of opportunities in Rapid City and the Black Hills. In fact, we're within an hour's drive of 5 national parks, including Mount Rushmore, and 2 state parks, including Custer State Park with Needles Highway and the Wildlife Loop, where you see a lot of buffalo, and Angostura Reservoir, which is one of the largest lakes in our area with a lot of sand-covered beaches all on the shore. Con number 5, lower average income. For whatever reason, it seems like the wages in Rapid City have always been a little low, with the excuse of, well, yeah, you're near the Black Hills and this is where you live kind of thing. I talked with some people who work at some of the larger corporations in town who mentioned that the pay here is a little bit less than they might get other places. Now, I know that's all built on cost of living, etc., but you'll find that our average wage here in Rapid City is about $52,000, which is lower than the national average. With the increased home prices in our area, the increased cost of groceries and gasoline and everything else, it gets really tough with someone on an hourly wage closer to minimum wage to afford housing. Pro number 5, a low unemployment rate. While the wages may be a little bit lower than the nation, Rapid City has an unemployment rate of 3.1%, which is considerably less than the national average. And as things have been growing in Rapid City, they are projecting a future job growth of 35% within our area. Places such as Eldon Air Force Base, the City of Rapid City, Black Hills Energy, Walmart and Sam's Club, and the Monument Health System are some of the biggest employers in Rapid City. Due to the trade radius I mentioned earlier, we also have great opportunities in the services such as banking, accounting, other similar services. And since the Black Hills is a huge tourist industry, we have lots of opportunities in the hospitality fields, restaurants, and seasonal help for a lot of the attractions around the area. Con number 6, limited diversity. If you check the demographics of Rapid City and South Dakota, you'll find there's a lot of white folk. Due to Ellsworth Air Force Base, we do have a lot more diversity that kind of comes and goes. And due to our proximity to a couple of Native American reservations, we do have a population of Native Americans. And there's also some Chinese and Mexicans around if you know where to find those communities. Pro number 6, no traffic. The average one-way commute time in Rapid City is about 15 minutes, which is shorter than the national average of 30 minutes. Considerably shorter than some of the metropolitan areas, which can be hour to 2 hours of travel time. And most of the time when you're driving through town, it's not like bumper to bumper, car to car. You're moving along at the speed limit, except for certain times in the morning when people are going to work, lunchtime around some of the restaurants in downtown areas, and when all those high schoolers get out of school. Plus, things get really congested during the summertime when construction starts happening. For some reason, they decide to work on all the major arteries at once. One year, it seemed like you couldn't get anywhere in town without rolling through some construction. That can really back things up, it seems like. One time, though, I was complaining about having to wait 3 stoplights to get through a light, and my brother-in-law, who's lived in Los Angeles, said, dude, that just isn't traffic. Con number 7, wind and hail. It's very rare that the wind is not moving at least a little bit at some time during the year. Kind of average in the summer getting to about 8 miles an hour, but in the spring and fall especially, as the weather is moving in and out, winds can be up to 30 miles an hour for even a couple days pretty regularly. And during thunderstorms and blizzards, those winds have been known to gust up to 60 and even 70 miles per hour. And while we don't have hurricanes and limited tornadoes over here by the Black Hills, we have hail. It seems like every year we have one hail event where a huge hailstorm comes through a part of the Black Hills and does some significant damage to cars and houses and everything around. Fortunately, that doesn't decimate anybody and leave anybody homeless, and that's why you have to make sure you have good insurance, but it's still something you need to be aware of. Hail, it happens. Pro number 7, a strong sense of community. Because really we're a rural area. We've got a warm Midwest hospitality feeling about our area, especially in some of the smaller towns. If you were to move into some of the smaller towns, they have a very wonderful community, such as Hermosa and Belfouche. You can get together and they have community events, things that happen there. One of the main things I've heard as I've talked with my clients about why they moved to Rapid City and what they loved about Rapid City was how nice everybody was. Of course, there are some bad apples in the bunch. Overall, they're very impressed with the friendliness of most everybody, saying hi as you walk in the store, acknowledging each other as you walk on the biking path. all those kind of things. I was with one client while we're doing the final walkthrough. The neighbors came over, introduced themselves, told them all about the area, and told them, yeah, give us a call if you ever need anything. We're here for you. My people were quite surprised about how that worked because they were like, yeah, usually at our house, you walk in the door and shut the door and you don't even talk to anyone. Con number 8, sparse population density. The entire state of South Dakota is under 1 million people. I think we're about 925,000 right now. Which, to provide you some context, if you take 3 South Dakotas, you can put all of them all within the Denver metropolitan area. With over 77,000 square miles in South Dakota, that's about 12 people per square mile. In Rapid City, we have a population density of about 1,500 people per square mile, which is considerably less than, say, New York City, which is about 29,000 people per square mile. Some people might consider this a pro, but with fewer per square miles, we have fewer opportunities, amenities, all those type of things here in Rapid City. You can't even start to compare the vibrancy of Rapid City to New York, Denver, or San Francisco. Pro number 8, we've got a rich cultural heritage. Downtown Rapid City has a whole bunch of museums and art areas and art galleries showcasing not only the Wild Wild West and American Indians, but also the Black Hills Railroads, Black Hills Gold Rush, and the farming and ranching life in the state of South Dakota. Con number 9, limited public transportation. Rapid City is not really a walkable city. We're starting to get more apartments and condominiums downtown, but even the grocery stores are a number of blocks away from there, so it would be tough to just walk down to the grocery store. We do have a smaller public bus system that takes you around town, and of course we've got taxis and Ubers, but we're not big enough for any kind of train system or anything like that. So while you can get around town with public transportation systems, it's so much easier with how spread out Rapid City is if you just have your own vehicle here in town. Pro number 9, diverse employment opportunities. Mentioned a few of these in the unemployment rate pro that I was talking about earlier, but Rapid City has plenty of employment opportunities across many sectors, including retail, healthcare, finance, and a little bit of manufacturing. We don't have a whole lot of manufacturing here in town, but there are a few opportunities, and some of the higher tech jobs is something that the city is working on getting more in town. Another of the big employment sectors is construction and truck driving. With Rapid City growing and building more and more new construction homes, plus current homeowners remodeling, that has a 2.75 interest rate, and it doesn't make sense for them to upgrade to a 7% interest rate. Plus, all these places looking for someone to transport materials to and fro. If you have experience in any of these fields, you should have a pretty easy time finding a job. Con number 10, small town mentality. Now, Rapid City isn't as small as the town I grew up in. Tyler had about 2,500 people, and there were actually articles in the newspaper where they talked about what so-and-so was doing and who brought who over and who had over, that kind of thing. So that's like super small town. Rapid City is a little bit bigger than that, but everybody still kind of knows everybody. Not going to get by with some of the big business things you could probably get by with in other areas, especially with our Midwest nice going on. People know when you're trying to oversell them, and sometimes that just doesn't go over very well. And with the small town mentality comes I don't really want things to change. I want things to remain the way they are. Remember when things were good like this in the good old days? Those type of things that sometimes hinder some progressive moving forward. Pro number 10, scenic neighborhoods. No matter where you are in Rapid City with the proximity to the Black Hills, it seems like you have some nice views either from in your neighborhood or not far away. Whether you have a nice drive down West Boulevard or a drive right by Canyon Lake Park, or even a view of the Black Hills and business in Rapid Valley, Rapid City is a scenic place to live, work, and play. Now it's time for me to add one more pro, one more con that people talk about, not that Chat GPT just did. Con number 11, travel kind of sucks. Now, a lot of people love the fact that our airport is just a smaller airport. It's easy to get into and out of. But when you fly out of Rapid City, you're just flying to a hub to get to the next place. There are a number of direct flights, but for the most part, travel to Rapid City Airport is kind of expensive because of the trips that you have to take. Now, if you're a true Midwesterner, you're like, 16-hour drive, I can drive that, no problem. And in the summertime, this is usually not a problem. But as we get into wintertime, and you never know what's going to happen with the weather, the road gets slick, the road gets snowy, you can't see in front of you, travel will be a whole lot more difficult during that time. Plus, if you want to escape that cold and go south, you really have to go quite a ways to get to somewhere warmer. Sometimes in those cold spells, Texas is even pretty chilly. I'm not sure you want to drive all the way down to Miami, Florida. Pro number 11, we've got all 4 seasons. Now, some people may not like this. They want to be 80 degrees all the time, like it is in Hawaii. The weather in an area is something that not only keeps us on our toes, but makes life interesting. Plus, we really enjoy the changing of leaves during the fall, snow during Christmas. Then we kind of manage to get through January, February, March before spring comes on again. And then it's so beautiful in the summer that's not overly hot that we can go places and enjoy life. But be prepared for any kind of weather. South Dakota is known for being one of the most unpredictable weather patterns in the nation. So what do you think? Is Rapid City a good place for you to live? What pros are actually cons for you? And what cons actually pros? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing day. And remember, love you, live.